Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to another transformative episode of the Mindful Living podcast with your host, Sana. Today, we are diving into a topic that's both soul stirring and life changing: the journey of a spiritual awakening. Joining us is none other than Jaclyn Francis, a radiant ascension guide and creator of the Worthiness Codes, a blueprint designed to help women reclaim their divine worth and align with their true power. Jacqueline's story, listeners, is one of courage, self discovery, and deep spiritual transformation. Now, imagine walking away from a career and relationship only to step into higher purpose that illuminates the path for others as well. So, whether you are curious about healing trauma, unlocking your confidence, or discovering the magic of manifestation, Jacqueline is here to share the wisdom she's cultivated from her own awakening journey. So grab your journal, open your heart, and get ready to be inspired as we explore how to navigate life through the lens of unconditional love and worthiness. So let's awaken together, listeners. Jacqueline, welcome to the show, and it is an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Thank you, Sana. What an introduction. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Lovely. So, Jacqueline, talking about your journey, it began with some life-changing decisions, leaving both your career and relationship. So what led you to take such bold steps, and how did that ignite your spiritual awakening?
Yes, it's funny because I always say I'm a 0 or 100% type of person. I'm either all in or all out. And apparently it was the same thing when it came to my awakening, to my spiritual journey. I had this innate knowing that I was meant for more, that where I was in or where I was at in my life at the time wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I knew that if I said yes to myself, to going all in on myself, that my life would change. And the first step was the knowing that the relationship I was in just wasn't with the person for me, wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so I listened to that intuitive knowing and I left. And then a few months later, I had the same knowing within my career. And I decided to leave that as well. And then from there, everything kind of opened up for me. And I was sent into a really deep period of healing, of awakening, of understanding my purpose in life and why I'm here, and really embodying my ultimate divine worthiness.
Wow, wow. That's really beautiful, Jacqueline. So you have created the Worthiness Codes, which is a blueprint for deep soul transformation. So can we explain what they are and how they help individuals reclaim their divine worth?
Yes. So the Worthiness Codes is an ascension blueprint. It's a 7-step process, a 7-step framework that helps a person through shedding, through healing, through awakening, leading them into the place of their portal of worthiness, which is in alignment to their authenticity, to their highest level of self-worth, so they can live life from that place and therefore experience life through that lens. So the way that I like to first explain ascension is this deep inward process of healing, of awakening to aligned to your truth, to your authenticity. And it's nothing outside of yourself. Everything that you need in life, everything that you are and are destined for lives within you. And all it takes is a deep process of unraveling, of removing the layers, removing the blocks rooted in trauma and wounding and programming and conditioning to tap into the remembrance of all the highest aspects of self and realigning to that place of self-worth.
Wow, that sounds interesting. So, some would argue, Jaclyn, that focusing on spiritual awakening or ascension can lead people to detach from reality and everyday responsibilities. So, how would you respond to that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, detachment is such an important, powerful word, and I don't think it's a negative word whatsoever. I don't think it's a negative perspective when you can detach. And what it means to detach is to release expectation, to release specific visions that you hold for how you want things to turn out, right? When you can release that, you are creating so much space within yourself and within your life for the most beautiful, most aligned, most abundant energy or manifestations to come through. So the way I look at detachment is directly tied to enlightenment. So when a person decides to awaken, to walk the spiritual path, it's a part of the process. Detachment is something that will happen because when you're awakening, you're beginning to see things for a deeper reason. You're beginning to see life from a higher lens of consciousness. And with that, you begin to understand that the ego is what holds attachments. Humans are what hold attachment. And releasing that is incredibly powerful. So it's not necessarily that you're detaching or feeling detached from reality. Reality is what you create. Reality is the way that you choose to live life. So I would invite you to shift your perspective and say you're detaching from what has been limiting you, detaching you from those things that are rooted in conditioning and programming to then become more in alignment to how you innately want to live life, if that makes sense.
That does. That does. So many people struggle with limiting beliefs and, deeply ingrained trauma. So, how does awakening and ascension help heal those deeply rooted patterns?
Yeah. So, in order to ascend, in order to awaken, you are at the same time healing the things that are keeping you tied to those denser energies. So anything that is rooted in your wounding, oftentimes it's trauma from this lifetime, it's trauma from your ancestral lineage. When you heal that, you're also expanding into a higher aspect of self, into a higher lens of consciousness. So to give a visual to it, and the way that I like to explain this for people to just easily digest, think of a tree, right? The way a tree grows is the tree is growing the roots underneath the soil that we cannot see, while at the same time it's sprouting its trunk and its branches and its leaves above ground. So the deeper the tree is planting the roots, the more profound it is going to grow above ground. It's the same for us humans. The more we do the inner work, the more we allow ourselves to go within to those parts that we haven't tapped into before, those parts that are, let's say, rooted in the quote unquote darkness. and we allow ourselves to grow there, we're also allowing ourselves to grow into a more beautiful, more powerful, more expansive version of self that is rooted in a higher lens of consciousness.
Wow. Wow. That is lovely. So, spirituality can sometimes feel abstract or overwhelming, Jaclyn. So, how can someone new to this path begin their own awakening journey without feeling lost?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And there are so many layers to spirituality. I think for someone who's new, it can be a little intimidating at first. The way that I like to explain what it means to be spiritual, what it means to explore spirituality, is solely aligning to your truth. And someone's truth is subjective to who they are. So it looks different for everyone, but it comes from within. So it's a journey of discovering who you are in your truest, most authentic form, and then living in alignment to that. So if someone feels curious to taking or walking the spiritual path, I would invite them to first ask themselves what is not in alignment currently in their life and go within that. Discover what that looks like, and then try to peel back those layers to see what it would mean to live life in your truth and how that can show up for you. And it's just a process of unbecoming from the things that aren't in alignment within your own self and within your external reality, and allowing yourself to step into something that is in alignment to your truest, most authentic form.
That sounds useful. So, you talk about navigating life from a higher lens of consciousness. So, what does that look like or feel like in practical day-to-day terms?
Yeah. So the way I like to explain a higher lens of consciousness, and there are many ways to explain this, some of the things you may become familiar with within the spiritual community are people talking about 3D reality versus 5D reality. I think that can be a little bit complex. So I want to just steer away from that and look at a higher lens of consciousness as energies. So if we look at all of the beautiful high vibrational energies like gratitude, joy, abundance, unconditional love, it's shifting into a place of that to detach from the lower density energies like anxiety, victimhood, anger, frustration, scarcity. So it's a shift from ultimately lack into abundance and choosing to live life through that lens. So, to just give an example to make it really clear for the listeners, living in a higher lens of consciousness, we can tie it to the frequency of unconditional love. That's where I have chosen to live from. And basically, what that means is you are able to see the beauty within everything in life. If something difficult happens to you in life, of course, you allow yourself to feel all the feels, to go through all of the emotions that you have to go through. But you are not choosing to hold on to anger, to hold on to being a victim. You are able to move past that to find unconditional love in the hardest of situations, so you can rise above anything that is keeping you dense, keeping you tied to these lower densities that aren't serving you, to expand into a lens of consciousness that is here to serve you in your highest and greatest good.
Great. Well explained, Jaclyn. So, a little bit on the flip side, while the idea of worthiness and alignment sounds empowering, and it is, others may feel it's a privilege that not everyone has the capacity to pursue, maybe due to financial, emotional, or even societal constraints. How do you make this accessible for everyone?
Yeah. Again, worthiness is innate. So everyone, it's your birthright to live from your divine worthiness. We came here to live life in the way that makes sense for each individual. Someone who is currently struggling, and of course, everyone grows up in different environments, different groups, and identifying to different things. So never coming from a place that takes away someone's own experience, first and foremost. But the invitation is understanding that you are in control of your life, no matter how difficult the environment that you grow up is, no matter how limiting you feel, no matter how much of a lack of self-worth that you have. When you become aware of where you're at currently and you choose to say yes to meeting yourself there and taking the steps to change your life, understanding that, again, no matter what your external reality looks like, no matter how you feel on the inside, knowing that you are worthy of becoming the best version of yourself and living life as him or her, that is when you can change your life, because you are in control of your life. Nothing outside of you is ever in control. You have to be able to understand that and shift your perspective, do the inner work to get rid of the limiting beliefs that you hold, to then be able to change your external reality.
Well, that's great answer, Jaclyn. And before we wrap up, confidence and self-worth are themes you emphasize. Why do you think these are so often disconnected from people's sense of spirituality, and how they can be integrated?
Yeah, I think for a person to really begin embodying their confidence, embodying their self-worth, again, it's directly tied to a person's truth, right? Tied to what makes a person authentic. Someone's self-worth, someone's confidence isn't going to be the same, isn't going to look the same, isn't going to feel the same, isn't going to show up in the same way as another person. You and I are sitting here having a conversation and we may both be worthy, right? We feel like we are in our divine worthiness. We are living life exactly how we want to live life, living out our purpose and our passions. But at the same time, it probably looks very different from one another. So it's rooted in someone's authenticity. It's rooted in your truth. And in order to get to that place, in order to understand what it means to be confident, what it means to be worthy of all that you are, you have to go on a journey to uncover, to discover what that means and how it's authentic for you specifically.
True. That's true. A lot of self-introspection has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's all, people can explain spirituality, can explain ascension, can explain awakening as something outside of yourself, as reaching for something outside of you. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Again, everything comes from within. So it's a deep journey of introspection. It's a deep journey of healing. It's a deep journey of discovery and truly getting to know who you are and becoming your own best friend and just re-meeting the purest version of yourself.
True. So, Jaclyn, if our listeners, they would like to connect with you and explore more about, spirituality and the journey of awakening, how they can do that?
Yeah, I host a weekly podcast called the Worthiness Codes, where I talk about specific topics through the lens of spirituality. And I also drop guided meditations as well to help people dive deeper into their spiritual awakening journey. So you can check those out as well. If you're interested in getting to know me more personally and my teachings, you can follow me on Instagram at Jaclyn Francis.
Lovely. We'll have the details mentioned for our listeners in the show notes. And Jaclyn, thank you so much for an enlightening conversation where you helped us understand navigating the highs and lows of spiritual awakening to also reclaiming our divine worthiness. So I'm very sure your insights, they will truly resonate with all of our listeners with the journey of living mindfully and intentionally. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sana. It was such a pleasure and honor to be here. And I'm excited for the listeners to drop in and hopefully resonate with all of the beauty we shared today.
Definitely. So, listeners, if today's conversation sparked something within you, whether it's a desire to explore your own worthiness, heal past traumas, or simply live a life aligned with unconditional love, don't forget to check out Jaclyn's incredible work, including the Worthiness Codes. You can also tune in to her podcast for even more empowering guidance. We'll have all the details in the show notes. And as always, thank you to everyone for being a part of the Mindful Living podcast family. If this episode inspired you, share it with someone who might need it. And leave us a review. It helps us spread these important messages to more listeners like you. And until next time, keep living intentionally, keep growing, and most importantly, keep embracing your worth. Stay mindful. Thank you.